Hello, and welcome to OMEA Backstage Pass. My name is Jay Wardeska, and I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director of the Ohio Music Education Association. Each year, our members and music teachers across the state of Ohio are privileged to have access to one of the largest music education conferences in the United States. We have every year between 2,500 and 3,000 music teachers, thousands of student performers, the all-state ensembles, hundreds of exhibitors, and of course, thousands of guests, leading to one of the largest and most comprehensive conferences that music educators can attend, and an opportunity for us to celebrate the high quality of music education in the state of Ohio. Today, I'm pleased to be joined with our Director of Professional Development and Conference Management, Mr. Mark Hensler, and our Director of Trade Shows and Business, Mr. William Whitman. So we would like to talk a little bit about some of the backstage, the operations, the things that go on behind the scenes to make our conference such a success. So to start off, I'd like to ask Mark, how do we go about building these great sessions, choosing our clinicians and programming what we do?
Sure, thanks, Jay. Well, first, I'd like to say I don't do it alone. We have a massive group of volunteers to assist in the selection process of putting this size of an event together. So there's essentially two components. We have what we call content chairs, which are chosen by me, and these are for band, chorus, general music, jazz, musical theater, and they usually serve anywhere 2 to 3 years, depending on what part of the state they're in, how their committee feels. I mean, there's a lot of different factors. Some serve a little longer, some a little less. And then we have standing chairs, which are appointed by the president of OMEA. And those areas would include adjudicated events, advocacy, OMEA, research, and there's a few others that go into that. So they all put together their own individual committees, consisting of maybe 5 to 7 members. And they try to get a nice cross section of our OMEA general membership from all levels, elementary through higher ed and community groups even. And then they're tasked with, first off, recommending to me clinicians they would like to see. And then I look at their recommendations and take my own recommendations and things that I've done by studying different conferences and hearing different presenters around the state and in the past, and look at ones that have been successful. And we have a select group of invited clinicians. You might say we usually call these our spotlighted clinicians. You may have seen that on our website or on Facebook, where we spotlight those folks. So we have that core of presenters. Then the rest of our presenters come in through our portal, through the OMEA website. And there's an application process, which we can get into a little bit later. But all those proposals come in for sessions and ensemble auditions too, which is also, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But as far as the sessions go, they all come in. And these chairs and their committees have access to those through the website. And so they do work remotely. Some of the committees still like to get together for face-to-face discussions. There's a standardized rubric that committees have helped me develop over the years that they use to score the proposals that come in. And then they rank them in order of preference for scheduling so that they have a good balanced content. So, if the first top 5 sessions, let's say an orchestra, are all about conducting, you don't want to have 5 conducting sessions, let's say, so they still need to balance. So it's not just a straight highest scoring to lowest scoring. They balance things out to make sure everything's covered for our membership so they have a nice, well-rounded presentation at conference. And then they all submit those to me. I look at the master's schedule and the number of rooms we have and the performing ensembles that we have, other events and receptions and meetings that we have, and we try to put together then a comprehensive schedule based on what everyone's submitted to me. And we'll have a little back and forth. I'll go to them to help refine things a little bit. Sometimes I'll ask them to look at the master schedule for conflicts, which can be pretty tough to work out at times. And they help guide me through that whole process. And we get that all together, and then we invite those folks. And I would say the majority of those folks are coming from Ohio. Those are our Ohio educator clinicians that come in that way through the portal. But that's how they're selected. Jada, pretty much cover.
Yeah, that's really great. I think especially the part about balancing the content and of course the limitations of the space that we have and fitting everything into the schedule. I think those are things that that we don't realize as we're coming to the conference. So Bill, can you tell us a little bit about the types of exhibitors that we have and a little bit about the vendors and how that benefits OMEA as well?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jay, and welcome to our viewing audience today. So it's pretty unique. We have quite a few different kinds of exhibitors that come to demonstrate and to show what they can do to assist musicians, music educators, more specifically in our trade show. And I'll just give you a little list of some things that we deal with. We have a lot of music retail stores that come to us from throughout Ohio, and those could be your local stores that help people with renting instruments for kids so they can begin in band and orchestra and or support other music education issues like general music or choir. So we have those kind of folks that come to us from Ohio and Pennsylvania. Universities. We have a lot of universities that have exhibit booths from Ohio and West Virginia, Indiana, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. So there's quite a geographic reach for some of those universities to come into Ohio because they know we have some great things happening. A lot of our music groups out there take trips. So there are a lot of travel assistance type groups as well. There are uniform manufacturers. There's also music-related furniture and building design assistants people, general music classroom equipment people, and we're fortunate to have armed forces come. We have last time around we had a group from the Marines and the Army that came and provided information about becoming a musician in one of those two organizations. Marching band equipment is a biggie. How do you haul all your stuff out onto the field and amplify sound and those kind of things. Recently, we've had some people exhibit that deal with data assistance. So that data assistance thing is becoming more and more practicable for directors and trying to track what they can do to help and assist young people. And of course, various associations that may come that are different than the norm. So all in all, we had about 130 different vendors this last year, and that equated to about 215 exhibit booths in our trade show.
That's fantastic. Do some of the exhibitors, do they sponsor sessions, or is there a way that they kind of support OMEA outside of just the exhibits?
Yes, some of them do that, and I work with Mark on that because we do have reciprocity here between what we do for OMEA, and so we do have people like GIA that support clinicians and other kinds of things like that. And in future podcasts, we'll get into partnerships and those issues and how those folks support OMEA as well. But we do have quite a few people that support clinicians that are also vendors, and that's part of what we ask them to do.
Fantastic, thank you, Mark. Yeah. I know a lot of people wonder how ensembles are chosen to perform at the conference. We all know that it's a tremendous honor to get to do that. I thought you might talk a little bit about how those ensembles go about applying and being chosen, and how you go about programming those.
Sure. Well, we have a very similar process to sessions. So the committee chairs, in this case, that are appointed by me, the content chairs. The reason we have evolved into that process is that the overlap with the change of OMEA presidents and appointing their chairs became kind of cumbersome to work with because chairs might be going off of their position at the same time they were supposed to be working on the conference. So just to get some consistency in those areas, in particular with the ensembles, we went to this idea of content chairs. A lot of times it's the same content chair that's evaluating sessions that might be evaluating the ensembles for band, orchestra, chorus, jazz, and general music. Sometimes we split it. It depends kind of on the workload of the chairs, and the same process follows. So they put together a committee representing areas of elementary through middle school, high school, and higher ed, and even community, sometimes retired folks. We want to make sure that it's you really have sort of an equal input from those areas as much as possible. So someone will get online through the portal and click on the Perform at Conference tab there, and it will walk you through the process, including uploading your MP3 audio files. And all of those are done in what we call a blind audition fashion. So you submit all that material up front, you provide the name of the selection and all of that information, but I'm the only one that can ultimately see the name of the group and a lot of those specific details. The chair and their committee will just have pertinent information, the level of the group, perhaps the size of the group. There's a few things that they need. And they'll listen to those, again, remotely. And they also have a rubric that they've developed and we've tweaked over the years to make the process consistent. And then when they get to the end of the process, they will send me their rankings. And it's a similar kind of thing, because you might expect, for example, the first top 4 groups might all be university groups. But to have 4 spots for university groups is tough when you maybe only have 8 or 9 performance slots overall. So that's where the challenge really comes in, is to decide, you want to generally 2 university, 2 high school, a middle school, maybe an elementary. How do you balance that? And you can't just go with a set amount, because it changes from year to year. In some years, you might just have a wealth of junior high, middle school bands that apply. In other years, that number is down. So you can't just say we're going to always take the top 2 middle school groups, for example. And they balance that out. And then I will look at that schedule, and that becomes tricky, especially when we're in one of the really, northern cities like Cleveland, or a southern city in Cincinnati, which I know we haven't been to in a while. But travel time then becomes a major factor in trying to think through getting groups there in an efficient manner and allowing them time to get back home if they're not interested in doing an overnight stay and having that expense. And then also trying as much as possible to schedule them so they are not opposite a big drawing session of the similar area. If it's a middle school and you've got a great middle school clinician presenting, you don't want to have the middle school band in that session at the same time. And if those folks, the presenters, are coming in from out of state, their schedule and other conferences they're presenting, their travel time, all of that factors in. It becomes really this sort of giant jigsaw puzzle to make sure that we do our best to avoid those conflicts. And then I will often go back and forth between those chairs and get a little help there. And since it's blind, sometimes you might have multiple groups from the same school. You could have a band and orchestra, for example, from the same school. So then you try to make sure that, do they want to travel on the same day? Do they not want to travel on the same day? Do they share equipment? Do they share students? And then, of course, we have our all-state ensembles that are performing, and those performances rotate. And as you might expect, in a lot of the high school level groups that are selected, they probably are going to have members in those all-state groups. So you have to factor in, when are they performing, and can they get to both performances, and can you take them out of the all-state rehearsal, and who transports them? And I mean, there is a lot that goes into that scheduling. I wish it was easy as just slapping them right in a template and away we go. But it is trouble. And then when you talk about the venues, Jay mentioned as well, what room is going to work best, and setup time. And We've seen sort of a trend towards a lot of audio visual effects and things involved in the performances, and will groups have enough time to set those up? Choral groups, particularly jazz type choral groups, are they going to need specific sound reinforcement, and are they bringing that? Are we providing that? Set up time for that, clearing out of the room? I mean, it's probably could do a whole podcast just on that process. But I just want to assure you that a lot of care goes into it, and we really want to make the best experience, not just for the attendees, but of course for the students and the director and the parents and the booster groups and everyone that supports those performances. And we also do have what we call the 2-year rule. So groups that perform this year in Cleveland are not eligible to apply to perform at the conference, which will be in Columbus next year. And this helps open up more opportunities for groups around the state to get involved and perhaps be selected. We also have some smaller chamber ensembles that come in, not quite as many of those. And we have percussion ensembles that come in. We usually have 1 or 2 of those that we try to select because, again, that's a massive amount of setup and space needed. And I don't know if you were in attendance this year in Cleveland and had the opportunity to hear any of our cameo presentations. That's a new thing that we started this year. I think it was very successful. These are more informal type performances in kind of an open area. The idea was to have music happening all around the conference, between sessions, not just in sessions. So the application, all that's still in the portal. That's a little less rigorous. And, we hope to continue that process in Columbus.
Yes, thank you. The cameo concerts particularly were just a wonderful addition this year. I know I know myself and a lot of attendees love the fact that there was music everywhere you went, which seems appropriate for what we were celebrating. And I appreciate all the background. I think sometimes people are hesitant to apply, and I encourage everybody to take the opportunity. It's that diversity that we can bring to the performances that makes the conference special.
I just want to make one more comment on the cameo concerts, because I also read all of the credit hour papers and excellent papers that come through. And I just want to be sure everyone understands when those cameo groups are selected, they understand the environment they're going to be performing in. I did read several comments that like this group needs to be in a room on a stage, and they didn't quite understand, I don't think, what we were fully going for. Some people were upset maybe by the noise and the environment that the groups were performing in, but that was the whole idea. And they are fully made aware when they apply that that's what it's going to be. Everyone was very happy with their performance. No one complained at all that there were too many people talking or walking. I mean, that's what we wanted. And it really does take the pressure off in a lot of ways from preparing a full hour performance in a major performance room. It's a little more casual. Kids seem to really enjoy themselves. So just want to be sure everybody understands that.
And that's a great point. And I think as musicians, we all understand that's part of the business, is that sometimes you're adding to the atmosphere. So thanks for making that point, Mark. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining us today and learning a little bit about what happens backstage at OMEA. We hope this is the first in a number of podcasts to give us the opportunity and our members the opportunity to learn a little bit more about what OMEA is doing for you. Thank you very much, and thank you for all of the hard work you do supporting music education in the state of Ohio.